Lena stared at the final notice, bill for the animal shelter. Its bold red stamp a stark omen. Her heart sank, a heavy stone in her chest. Without this payment, the lights would go out, leaving countless innocent lives in darkness. The next morning, Lena navigated Mr. Harrison's sprawling calendar with surgical precision. His voice, crisp and devoid of warmth, cut through the corporate hum. Lena, ensure all departmental budgets are strictly adhered to. No unsanctioned expenditures, no distractions. Our focus remains on profitability. Lena nodded, her face a mask of professional compliance, while a quiet defiance stirred beneath. That evening, in her meticulously neat apartment, Lena scrolled through her online banking. Her savings, a modest but hard-earned buffer, felt suddenly inadequate. She then opened the shelter's social media. The faces of pleading dogs and vulnerable cats, many she recognized, tugging at her conscience, their silent cries echoing louder than any financial warning. The following day, during her lunch break, Lena found herself back at the shelter, a knot of worry tightening in her stomach. Amidst the hopeful barks and soft purrs, a new volunteer, Elias Vance, leaned against a wall, his gaze piercing. He watched her, and the struggling shelter, with an unsettling, critical detachment, muttering to another volunteer, "Good intentions, don't pay bills." Mid-morning, Lena's cubicle felt colder than usual. Her screen glowed with a new company-wide memo. Subject line: responsible resource allocation and professional focus. Mr. Harrison's words, formal and detached, spoke of fiscal prudence and avoiding non-work-related distractions. Lena's jaw tightened. She knew the memo wasn't for everyone. It was for her. Every carefully worded phrase was a thinly veiled warning, a corporate whip-crack against her quiet efforts for the shelter. The indifference in the language chilled her more than the office air. Later that afternoon, the shelter's outdoor run offered little solace. Lena knelt, gently stroking a timid hound, its ribs too prominent under her fingers. Elias Vance leaned against a chain-link fence nearby, his gaze sharp. "Still wasting good intentions on lost causes, Ms. Hayes?" he drawled, his voice a low, cynical hum. "Charity's a fool's errand. You pour your heart into a sieve, and it all drains away." Lena didn't look up, but her hand paused. "Some things," she murmured, "are worth the risk of a little lost water, Mr. Vance. Especially if it means a parched soul finds a drop of comfort." Elias merely snorted, but his eyes never left her. That evening, the silence of Lena's apartment was shattered by a desperate ring. It was the shelter manager, her voice choked with tears. "Lena, they're cutting the power." 48 hours. The utility company. They won't budge. Lena clutched her phone, her knuckles white. Images flashed through her mind. Dark, cold kennels. The frightened, shivering animals. The tiny, hopeful faces she'd seen just hours ago. The manager's sobs echoed in her ear. A plea Lena felt deep in her bones. We can't let that happen," Lena whispered, her own voice trembling with an urgency that clawed at her throat. Late into the night, Lena sat at her small kitchen table. Her banking app displayed her modest savings, a sum she'd meticulously built. Beside it, a photo of a scruffy terrier from the shelter, its eyes wide and trusting. The fear was a cold knot in her stomach, the professional risk a sharp dagger. But the image of those cold kennels, the manager's desperate plea, they outweighed everything. She took a deep breath, her finger hovering over the transfer button. Her boss's warnings, Elias's cynicism, her own financial vulnerability, none of it mattered. With a firm, resolute expression, Lena clicked, confirm, on her banking app, watching her hard-earned savings shrink. The amount was significant, enough to cover the shelter's overdue utility bill. A quiet sigh escaped her lips, a mix of relief and lingering anxiety. Moments later, her phone buzzed. It was Ms. Jenkins, the shelter manager, her voice trembling. "Lena, the power's back on. The company just called. They said it was paid. It was you, wasn't it?" Lena offered a small, weary smile. "Just glad I could help." A montage of lights flickered on inside the shelter. A warmth spreading through kennels, a water pump whirring back to life, the grateful purrs of a cat curled under a newly lit heat lamp. For a moment, the world felt right. The peace was short-lived. By mid-morning, Mr. Harrison's stern voice cut through the office intercom. "Lena, my office. Now." He sat behind his polished mahogany desk, a printed transaction report laid out before him. A small, almost insignificant line item was highlighted. Pet food and supplies, urgent delivery. Lena had used her company card for a rush order of specialized food for a sick puppy, knowing the shelter was out. "This, Miss Hayes," he began, his voice low and dangerous, "is precisely the kind of personal involvement I warned you against. Our company's resources are not for your extracurriculars. I expect strict adherence to policy, or your position here will become untenable." Lena met his glare, her jaw tight, but her gaze unwavering. She would not apologize for compassion. Later that day, seeking respite, Lena visited the shelter. In the cramped break room, Elias Vance leaned against the chipped counter, a half-eaten sandwich forgotten. He watched her approach, his eyes sharp. "So, the rumors are true," he drawled, a cynical edge to his voice. "You actually drained your own accounts for this lost cause. Why? Do you enjoy tilting at windmills, Miss Hayes? Or do you genuinely believe a single person can fix systemic failure?" Lena paused, stroking a nervous tabby. "I believe," she said, her voice quiet but firm, "that every life has value, and that ignoring a problem because it's hopeless is a choice I'm unwilling to make. Responsibility isn't always convenient, Mr. Vance. Sometimes it costs." Elias's expression remained unreadable, but his gaze seemed to deepen, studying her. Back in her apartment, the silence felt heavier than usual. Lena opened her banking app again, the drastically reduced number on her savings account, a stark reminder of her sacrifice. A knot tightened in her stomach. It was a substantial amount, her buffer, her security. But then, her gaze fell upon a handwritten thank you note from the shelter, taped to her fridge. A child's drawing of a smiling dog was scribbled at the bottom. The anxiety eased, replaced by a quiet sense of purpose. She had made her choice, and despite the financial pinch, despite Mr. Harrison's threats, despite Elias Vance's cynicism, her heart knew it was the right one. She wouldn't waver. The corporate office, once a place of predictable rhythm, now hummed with a different kind of energy around Lena. Throughout the week, the subtle shifts became undeniable. Conversations hushed as she approached the break room. Eyes flickered away when she made eye contact. Colleagues who once chatted about weekend plans now offered only curt nods. Mr. Harrison's instructions, delivered through email or terse, clipped sentences, were strictly professional, devoid of any personal pleasantries. The door to his office remained conspicuously closed. Lena felt the weight of their unspoken judgment, a heavy cloak of isolation settling over her. But she carried it with quiet dignity, her gaze steady, her posture unbowed. During her lunch break at the animal shelter, Lena found Elias Vance again, not just observing, but actively scrutinizing. He moved with a quiet intensity, a small, worn notebook constantly in hand. He wasn't just asking about the utility bill or general finances anymore. Lena overheard him questioning volunteers about inventory management, adoption rates, even the efficiency of their cleaning protocols. He asked about the long-term health plans for specific animals, the shelter's community outreach programs, the precise allocation of donated food. Lena watched him from a distance, a strange knot forming in her stomach. He wasn't a casual volunteer, not with that level of detail, that unsettling, analytical gaze. He was more. At the end of the week, Mr. Harrison's door finally opened for her. Lena stepped into his office, the air thick with unspoken finality. Termination papers, crisp and white, sat on his polished desk, though he didn't explicitly point to them. He leaned back, a cold, unyielding mask on his face. "Lena," he began, his voice devoid of warmth, "your recent distractions are impacting not only your performance, but, more critically, the company's image. Our policy on non-work-related activities during company time, or indeed the perception of using company resources, is quite clear." He paused, letting the implication hang. "Your position here, if this charity work continues, will be untenable." Lena met his gaze, her own eyes holding a determined sadness. She knew what he was asking. She also knew her answer. That evening, the chill of Mr. Harrison's words still lingered, but Lena found solace where she always did, the animal shelter. The air, once heavy with despair, now hummed with a quiet, grateful energy. The lights were on, the kennels warm, and the animals, fed and comfortable, offered soft purrs and gentle nudges. The shelter manager, her eyes no longer shadowed by panic, squeezed Lena's hand. "Thank you, Lena. You saved us." Lena spent extra time, petting a sleepy tabby, watching a playful puppy. The appreciation from the staff, the tangible difference her sacrifice had made, was a balm to the professional wounds. It was a bittersweet comfort, knowing her job might be gone, but her heart remained whole. The harsh fluorescent lights of Mr. Harrison's office seemed to hum with an ominous energy that morning. Lena Hayes stood stiffly opposite his polished mahogany desk, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. On the desk, unmistakably, sat a stack of papers, the top one emblazoned with a bold corporate logo and the words, "Termination Notice." Mr. Harrison, his face a mask of detached professionalism, cleared his throat. "Miss Hayes," he began, his voice devoid of warmth, "as we discussed, your recent extracurricular activities have proven to be a significant distraction. While we appreciate your initial contributions, this company requires undivided focus. Therefore, it is with regret that I must inform you." Lena felt a cold knot tighten in her stomach, but her gaze remained steady, meeting his without flinching. This was it, the price of her conviction. Just as Mr. Harrison reached for the papers, a sharp, insistent buzz erupted from his desk intercom. He paused, annoyed, and pressed a button. "What is it?" he snapped. A flustered voice crackled through. "Sir, we have a high-profile visitor, Mr. Vance. He insists on seeing you immediately. And Ms. Hayes." Harrison frowned, glancing at Lena, then back at the door. Before he could respond, the office door swung open. And there he was, Elias Vance, the cynical volunteer, but transformed. Gone were the faded jeans and skeptical gaze. In their place, a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, a crisp white shirt, and eyes that now held an undeniable, commanding authority. He moved with a quiet power, flanked by two sharp-suited assistants carrying briefcases. Mr. Harrison's jaw dropped, a rare crack in his composed facade. Lena's eyes widened, a jolt of disbelief and dawning comprehension shooting through her. The air in the office crackled with an entirely new explosive tension. Elias stepped fully into the office, his presence instantly shrinking Mr. Harrison's imposing space. He nodded once, a gesture of quiet acknowledgement, then turned his gaze to Lena. "Ms. Hayes," he said, his voice calm, measured, yet resonating with a depth she'd never heard from him before. "I believe we have much to discuss." He then turned to a still gaping Mr. Harrison. "Mr. Harrison, I am Elias Vance, founder of the Global Compassion Initiative." He paused, allowing the name to sink in, a name synonymous with billions in philanthropic endeavors. "For the past few weeks, I've been conducting an anonymous observation, a quiet search for a leader of true integrity to head a new national foundation. I posed as a volunteer, observing individuals who claimed to care, but more importantly, those who talked it on it. I sought genuine compassion, not just rhetoric. I needed someone who would put principle above personal gain, empathy above corporate policy, someone who, even when everyone else scoffed and their own livelihood was on the line, would still choose to save the most vulnerable. I was testing for the unseen heart," Mr. Harrison stammered, his face paling, the termination papers suddenly seeming like a flimsy, irrelevant prop. Elias's gaze returned to Lena, a genuine, appreciative smile finally gracing his lips. "Ms. Hayes, your defiance, your willingness to pour your hard-earned savings into saving that animal shelter, even knowing it could cost you your job here, was not a distraction, Mr. Harrison," Elias stated, his voice now firm, cutting through the silence. "It was the ultimate qualification. It proved that your integrity is not for sale, and your compassion is boundless." He turned his full attention back to Mr. Harrison, his tone softening only slightly, but gaining an edge of steel. Your corporate policies, Mr. Harrison, while perhaps efficient on paper, lack the heart that truly drives change. Lena's actions saved that shelter. Your policies would have condemned it. And for that reason, Ms. Hayes will no longer be your administrative assistant. Lena's breath hitched. A wave of triumph washed over her, mixed with a profound sense of validation. Mr. Harrison sat utterly deflated, his smugness evaporating into a grimace of humiliation. Elias extended a hand towards Lena, a gesture of profound respect. Instead, Ms. Hayes, I am formally offering you the position of director for the new National Animal Compassion Foundation under the Global Compassion Initiative. Lena stared, overwhelmed, tears pricking her eyes. The sheer magnitude of the offer, the sudden reversal of her fate, was almost too much to process. Our vision, Elias continued, is to expand the model of compassion and care you instinctively demonstrated. To build thriving shelters across the nation, starting with your local shelter as our flagship, ensuring no animal, no community, is left without hope. We need your heart, your intellect, and your unwavering principles to lead this. What do you say? Lena, her voice thick with emotion, could only nod, a radiant, tear-filled smile breaking through. Yes, she whispered. Yes, Mr. Vance. Absolutely. Moments later, Lena and Elias arrived at the local animal shelter. The staff, who had been bracing for the worst, erupted in cheers and tears as Lena, standing beside Elias, made the announcement. The shelter is saved, she declared, her voice ringing with joy. And not just saved, but expanding. Thanks to Elias Vance and the new Animal Compassion Foundation, we're becoming a national beacon. Elias stepped forward, a reassuring presence. Indeed, funding is secured, expansion plans are underway. This shelter, your dedication, Ms. Hayes, is the blueprint for a future where every animal finds a home and every community finds its heart. The staff rushed forward, hugging Lena, their faces alight with relief and renewed purpose. Lena looked around at the happy, barking dogs and purring cats, a deep, abiding pride swelling in her chest. Her small act of defiance had not only saved these lives but forged a future beyond her wildest dreams. A week later, Lena Hayes stepped into her new office. The air smelled of fresh paint and possibility, a stark contrast to the stale, recycled air of her old cubicle. A large, sleek executive desk overlooked a vibrant city skyline, not a dusty corporate park. A mix of excitement and a profound sense of responsibility settled in her chest. Elias Vance stood by the window, a subtle smile playing on his lips. Comfortable? He asked, turning. Lena nodded, a genuine smile replacing her usual professional reserve. More than I ever imagined, Mr. Vance. He chuckled softly. Elias, please. And remember, Lena, your unique perspective, your heart, that's the key. Don't let this desk make you forget the shelter floor. Lena was a natural leader. In the gleaming conference room, multiple screens flickered to life, showing faces from across the nation. She leaned forward, her voice clear and articulate, a far cry from the quiet compliance she once offered Mr. Harrison. Our goal isn't just to build shelters, she explained, a digital map behind her highlighting potential new locations. It's to cultivate communities of compassion. Our flagship, the original shelter, will be the blueprint. Every new facility must prioritize local involvement, foster genuine care, and operate with the integrity that saved our first animals. Enthusiastic nods and murmurs of agreement rippled through the virtual room. This wasn't just a job, it was a movement. Weeks later, Lena and Elias visited the now thriving local shelter. The once gloomy building hummed with activity, filled with the happy barks and purrs of healthy animals, bustling volunteers and families excitedly filling out adoption papers. It's magnificent, isn't it? Lena said, her gaze sweeping over the vibrant scene, a proud warmth filling her. Elias simply nodded, a quiet affirmation of her vision. As they stood near the entrance, a figure walked by, head down, eyes darting nervously. Mr. Harrison. He paused, his gaze snagging on Lena, then Elias, then the flourishing shelter. His shoulders slumped, the weight of his past judgment palpable. Lena caught Elias's eye, a shared, knowing look passing between them. The contrast was stark. Her triumph, his regret. Late that evening, back in her new office, Lena found herself reviewing a stack of emails. 1. A handwritten letter scanned into a PDF caught her eye. It was from a small, struggling shelter in rural Georgia, seeking advice, a lifeline. She remembered the final notice bill, the knot of fear in her stomach, the quiet defiance that had saved her own beloved shelter. Success hadn't changed her. The core of her remained the same. A profound empathy for the vulnerable, a belief in the power of a single act of kindness. She set aside the more pressing corporate reports and began to draft a personal, thoughtful reply. A small, framed photo of her original shelter on her desk, a constant reminder of her journey. And so Lena's vision began to bloom. Across the country, the Animal Compassion Foundation flourished. A montage of images flashed, children laughing with adopted puppies in bustling urban shelters, serene cats basking in sun-drenched rural facilities, dedicated staff gently rehabilitating injured wildlife. Each thriving shelter, each wagging tail, each successful adoption was a direct testament to Lena's unwavering spirit. What started as a single act of defiance, a quiet sacrifice made for a struggling local shelter, had blossomed into a nationwide legacy of compassion. It was a powerful reminder that true integrity, even when it seems to cost you everything, possesses a profound, unseen strength that can change the world. Lena's kindness nearly cost her everything, but in the end, it became the very reason she was saved, and countless others along with her. What do you think? Does true integrity always find its way back? Let us know in the comments below, and if this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us bring you more powerful stories that remind us of the enduring strength of an unseen heart. Lena stood at the head of the polished conference table, the gleaming foundation logo behind her, a stark contrast to the faded sign of her old diner. Her voice, once quiet and self-effacing in Mr. Harrison's office, now resonated with a calm authority as she presented to a room of corporate representatives. She spoke not just of numbers, but of the countless lives saved, of the ripple effect of compassion. Her arguments were watertight, her vision compelling. This isn't just about funding, she concluded, her gaze sweeping the room. It's about building a legacy of empathy, one life at a time. A senior executive, initially skeptical, nodded slowly, then offered a significant commitment. Lena felt a quiet triumph, not for herself, but for the animals whose future was now secured. A few weeks later, Lena found herself on a university campus, standing beside Elias Vance at a bustling career fair. Students, their faces alight with ambition, gathered around their booth. Elias introduced her, but it was Lena's story that truly captivated them. She spoke of her journey, from administrative assistant to national director, not as a fairy tale, but as a testament to unwavering principles. Many will tell you to compromise your values for success, she told them, her voice earnest. But I learned that integrity isn't a weakness, it's the most powerful asset you possess. It was my integrity, my refusal to turn away from suffering, that opened every door. A young woman with wide, hopeful eyes raised her hand. How do you stay true to that when everything pushes against you? Lena smiled. You remember why you started. The foundation's next challenge brought Lena to a struggling urban community, where plans for a new shelter met with initial resistance. Local leaders, wary of outsiders and past failed projects, were skeptical. Lena didn't argue or impose. Instead, she listened, truly listened, to their concerns about noise, resources, and community integration. She spent days walking the neighborhood, understanding its pulse. At the next meeting, she presented not a generic plan, but a tailored solution. A multi-purpose community center with animal therapy programs for at-risk youth, job training opportunities for local residents, and a shelter designed with soundproofing and green spaces. Slowly, the skepticism in the room transformed into nods of agreement. Lena extended her hand to the community elder, a silent pact of shared purpose. Miles away, in his private office, Elias Vance leaned back in his chair, a faint smile playing on his lips. He reviewed the latest reports, a significant funding round secured by Lena, successful community integration in the new urban shelter, a surge in volunteer applications nationwide. Her touch was evident in every success, not just in the strategic wins, but in the underlying ethos of genuine compassion. He picked up a framed photo on his desk, a candid shot of Lena laughing as she played with a rescued puppy back at the original local shelter. Rare, he murmured to himself, his gaze fixed on the photo. True integrity, a mind that thinks with its heart, rarer than any fortune. He knew he hadn't just found a director, he had found a legacy. 5 years had passed, but the vibrant chaos of the Animal Compassion Foundation's annual National Adoption Fair felt like a crescendo of Lena's initial whispered defiance. Hundreds of families milled about, children laughing, leashes tangling joyfully, a symphony of new beginnings. Lena, poised and elegant, stood beside Elias Vance, whose once cynical gaze now held an undeniable warmth as he watched the scene unfold. The foundation, born from a single act of courage, had become a household name, synonymous with ethical animal welfare. "Look at this, Lena," Elias murmured, a genuine smile softening his features. All this because one person refused to look away. Later, in the quiet sanctuary of her own apartment, a sleek tabby cat named Whisper purred against her side. Lena traced the outline of the cat's ear, a smile playing on her lips. Her home, once a silent refuge from corporate strain, now hummed with a peaceful, purposeful energy. She remembered the gnawing anxiety of that final notice bill, the desperate weight of her choices. Now, a profound purpose filled her days, a quiet contentment that had replaced the relentless hum of corporate pressure. This, she mused, was what true success felt like. Not just grand achievements, but the quiet joy of a life lived in alignment with one's deepest convictions. Meanwhile, downtown, the sleek corporate tower where Lena once toiled stood, its facade undergoing a quiet renovation. A new, unfamiliar logo was being hoisted into place, replacing the old, sterile branding. Whispers around the city suggested a recent abrupt leadership change. A certain Mr. Harrison, it was said, had found himself pursuing other opportunities, far from the city's influential circles, his cold pragmatism having somehow lost its corporate luster. The old world was moving on, oblivious to the true heart that had once animated its very core, and to the quiet justice that had reshaped its landscape. But Lena's legacy wasn't confined to a single building or a grand event. It was in the quiet moments unfolding across the nation. A shy child reading a story to a rescued terrier in a cozy library nook, a college student volunteering after classes, families sharing their first Christmas with a newly adopted companion. Each wagging tail, each contented purr, each grateful human face was a ripple from Lena's single defiant act of kindness. Her integrity, once deemed a weakness, had blossomed into a powerful, expansive force, proving that the unseen heart, when followed with unwavering conviction, could truly change the world. Late into the evening, long after most city lights had dimmed, Lena Hayes sat in her spacious new office. The sleek, ergonomic chair was a far cry from her old cubicle, yet her posture remained the same, shoulders slightly hunched over papers, brow furrowed in concentration. She wasn't driven by deadlines or corporate directives now, but by a deeper, unwavering current of purpose. Her gaze drifted to a small, framed photograph on her desk, a slightly faded image of the original local shelter, its worn facade a stark reminder of the desperate days. It was a testament to where it all began, a quiet anchor reminding her that the heart of her work remained unchanged, even as its reach grew boundless. Weeks later, over a quiet dinner, Lena and Elias shared a moment of reflection. The clinking of their glasses was the only sound in the elegant restaurant, a world away from the frantic calls and corporate tensions that once defined Lena's life. They spoke of future initiatives, of new cities ready to embrace the Foundation's vision, but their conversation always circled back to the beginning. Elias looked at Lena, a knowing smile playing on his lips. "To unseen hearts," he said, raising his glass, "and to unwavering integrity, the kind that reshapes the world, one act of defiance at a time." Lena's eyes, bright with gratitude and a quiet pride, met his. "To the vision," she replied, her voice soft but firm, "that saw the worth in it." Across the country, the legacy of Lena's unwavering spirit blossomed. A montage of life, renewed and vibrant, unfolded. A scruffy terrier, once trembling in a cramped cage, now bounded through a sunlit park with a laughing child. A shy calico cat, its fur matted and dull, purred contentedly in the lap of an elderly woman, its coat gleaming. a playful litter of puppies, rescued from neglect, tumbled happily in a green yard, surrounded by their new loving family. Each wagging tail, each gentle purr, each comforted sigh was a silent, living testament to Lena's compassion. From the brink of despair, countless lives had been transformed, their joy echoing the profound impact of one woman's choice. The sun rose over a bustling city, its golden light washing over gleaming skyscrapers and quiet neighborhood streets alike. It was a new day, in a world subtly yet profoundly reshaped. Lena's story, the tale of the unseen heart, became a whispered legend, a reminder that true power often lies not in titles or wealth, but in the quiet strength of conviction. Her journey, from a desk in a sterile corporate office to the helm of a national movement, proved that kindness, when coupled with intellect and courage, is the most potent force for change. It taught that integrity, even when it feels like a solitary stand, inevitably finds its way back, not just to save a few, but to inspire a future forged by heart.